Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Earful Tower podcast. My name is Oliver G. This is a show brought to you by French Today. They do audiobooks to teach you French, and I'll be talking about them at the very end of the episode and sharing a few little French expressions I've learned as I've been studying their books over the past week. But I have a feeling there's some people listening for the first time. Yes, you. I'm talking to you. You might be, a fan of crime writer Cara Black, who's perhaps shared this episode. You might be thinking, what am I... You might even be thinking, I'm going to fast forward to the bit where Cara Black comes on. But no, I'll stop you there because I want to introduce myself. My name's Oliver G. I'm an Australian in Paris, and for the past 2 years, every single week, I've been doing a similar episode to this one, a half-an-hour chat with some kind of interesting person who has something to do with France or Paris. So, similar to Cara Black, I've had many authors. I've had tour guides, mayors, chefs, comedians, actors, what else? Ambassadors. Anyone who's doing interesting stuff in this city, I get them on and chat to them. And the reason I'm introducing myself is twofold. Firstly, because I just want to say hello to you, wherever you are in the world. Maybe it's your Monday evening commute going home, Tuesday morning maybe. I just wanted to say hello, but also because I got an interesting email from someone who works at Libsyn, which it's kind of the online place where this podcast is hosted. In other words, where I upload it so that you can listen to it. And she incidentally listens to this show, and she said, "Look, Oliver, love the show, but I got to tell you, no point in asking for reviews. Don't bother asking for reviews on iTunes," which is something I've done in previous episodes. She said, the one thing, and this is what I'm going to say to you guys, the one thing that's most important is subscriptions. What does that mean? It means, and I can see this in the statistics, that a lot of people that listen to this show maybe haven't hit the subscribe button on their Apple or Android or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. And let me just quickly explain before we get into Cara Black why it's important. Firstly, it might not make a big difference to you on your phone, one person subscribing to a podcast like this, but to me it makes a big difference because it means that you'll download the episodes, the future episodes, as they come out. And what that means is, as the download figures get higher, it makes it easier for me to attract bigger and better guests. Because imagine, if I email the president and I'm like, Monsieur Macron, quick question, do you want to come on the show? He'll be like, how many downloads have you got? And I'll tell him the number. He'll say, no, mate, get back to me when you got this number. And you guys can help me do that. And then I'll say, hey, look, I have got that number. And he'll say, I'm on my way to your little maid's quarters on Rue Lafayette, which is where I'm sitting right now on Monday. So there you go. We've gone full circle. Hit that subscribe button. Today, I'm going to be talking to Cara Black all about her new book, Murder in Bel Air, that comes out June 4th. You can find all the information on carablack.com. Her first book, Murder in the Marais, has been the subject for the book club. Free to join on Facebook. Just look it up. We've been discussing it all month. And on Friday, this Friday, 2 p.m., I'll be talking with her live specifically about that book. Lastly, while we're talking about live videos later on today, so if you're listening to this when it comes out, you might just be in time, but I'm going to do a live video on YouTube with recent guest Caroline de Maigret, who wrote the book How to Be Parisian Wherever You Are. She's going to be showing us her neighborhood in the 9th arrondissement. I'm very excited about this one. She's a great guest, very Parisian. So any questions you have about the 9th arrondissement or Parisians or Paris, get in there live and watch it. First bit free, second bit on Patreon. You guys know how it works. All right, over to Cara Black in the studio talking about murder in Paris and how she'd get away with the murder of me. Let's do it. All right, Cara Black, welcome to the studio.
Hello, Oliver. Nice to see you again.
Again, indeed, because we've met before almost a year ago to the day.
Exactly, and I got a ride on your scooter on the Ile Saint-Louis.
That's right. Do you remember? I've had a lot of guests in this studio over the past 2 years, and that was one of the most memorable guest experiences I've had. Do you remember it? You were on the back. I had you holding the stabilizer and the camera.
Exactly, and I was so worried I was going to drop it.
Right.
We were bouncing over the cobblestones, but no, it was great. We drove from Aimee's house to her office on Rue du Louvre. Yeah,
I remember, and we had a friend of mine on a bicycle who was getting like B-roll. And he was just we didn't even see him cycling around getting shots. And so we're focusing on all this. And when we're crossing the bridge, do you remember that all the cops were there?
That's right.
And I was like, oh, maybe you're not allowed to film from a scooter. And I was panicking that they were going to pull us over.
Yeah.
All the while thinking, I was thinking, Cara would probably love it if we get pulled over.
Yes, we were. Yes, and I would have enjoyed that. Yeah. But luckily we weren't. So.
And we're going to ride the scooter again
Exactly.
after this very recording. But more on all that later. The idea for today's episode, it's a bit of a mix. There's a lot of things going on. Firstly, you got a new book coming out.
Exactly.
Murder in Bel Air, June 4th.
Exactly.
The 19th?
19th book in the Aimee Leduc series.
That is incredible. Have you written books outside of this? Or
Nope.
Just that? Just Aimee?
That. Yeah. 20 years of Aimee Leduc. I can't
crazy.
believe it.
Wow.
I didn't even know I wanted to write Murder in the Marais.
Right.
And then I thought that was it. And then they asked me for another. And who knew that I was writing a series?
Yeah.
I didn't.
When did it click for you that you were writing a series? How many books in?
About 11 books in.
Really? 11 books in, you go, hang on, there's a trend here. Yes. Is that what happened?
Well, I sold each book by itself. I never knew if they'd give me another contract, right? And publishing, sometimes it's like that. And I was lucky to get published. So.
But then did you have to convince them every single time? Couldn't you go, guys, I'm going to do 20 of these?
Well, they sort of got about book 15. They were like, yeah, finish all the arrondissements. Do the
It took
20.
them 15. Come on, guys. Publishers, right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Murder in the Marais, which is perfect because that's one of the other reasons that we're talking today is you have been the subject of the Eiffel Tower Book Club on your first book. I would have liked to, my first thought was that we'd do the new one, Murder in Bel Air. Mm-hmm. But then me and you got talking. We thought, you're coming to Paris because you're usually based in America.
Right.
And we're like, hey, let's start at the very beginning. And that's what we've been doing.
That's wonderful.
All the people, there's over 500 people in this book club.
Great.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And if you're listening and you want to join it, now's the time because Aimee, there's so much happening. I called you Aimee.
Yeah, well, you're not the first person who's done that. But we're going to talk about the book on Friday,
exactly right. So on Friday, I don't know what the date will be, 24th. 24th? Yep. It'll be on the Friday of the Monday when you're hearing this episode. Cara and I are going to sit down and discuss in detail with a little group as well, Murder in the Marais.
Yep.
And you said people can ask you anything.
Totally. It's my first book. It comes from a very special place, and I love to talk about it. Of course, I've written 19 books, but there's always a place for that because that got me into my life of crime.
I'm so excited to really pick your brains on that. And guys, the book club is free to join. Go and join it. It's on Facebook for the moment, and I'll be streaming our chat live. And what that means is you can write any question. I'll see it in the comments field, and I'm going to turn to Cara. I'm going to say, hey, look, Stephanie in Oregon has a question for you. And you're going to say, by God, I'll answer it.
Yeah, and I'll be in Paris answering your question.
Isn't that fun? I love this. What a job I have. But let's talk about, let's talk a little bit, let's set the scene. Imagine there's people listening saying, I've never heard of Cara Black.
Right.
Blasphemy. I've never heard of Aimee Leduc. What are you doing? What's your story?
I say I just kill people all over Paris, basically. Yeah.
I love it.
So Aimee Leduc is half French, half American, taller and thinner than I am. She has this apartment on Ile Saint-Louis because that's an apartment I would like to have.
And we went in there when we
yes.
we bust into the courtyard. Remember?
We did. And then we were chased out. But yes,
you broke the door down. The cops were chasing you, probably.
Yeah, but it's this beautiful Hotel Lausanne. Bel Air used to live there and have a hashish club. Anyway, it's this gorgeous building, hugely historical, 17th century, owned now by the city of Paris. But I always thought when I'd like to live there, so why shouldn't my fictional detective? And so she's half French, half American. She grew up with a father who was a policeman, who was drummed out of the force for reasons we find out about.
Yes, no spoiler alerts on the first book because I'm only 250 pages through it.
Okay. Well, but
or the 19 other books.
Okay, but so he goes and joins his father, Aimee's grandfather, in Leduc Detective. Well, actually, it's Leduc Detective. I based it on the real one, Leduc Detective.
That's what they do in the street slang, when they switch the syllables around. Did you do it like that on purpose?
No, for legal reasons.
Oh, right. Well, that also makes sense. Do you talk to those guys in there? Or
I went to see them on Monday. They're friends.
Right.
Martine has the history that Aimee Leduc has. Her father ran the agency. She became a detective. Her grandfather started it after he left the Sûreté.
Right.
So it's been there forever. It's you have the picture of the grandfather on the permit, permit you get to operate.
Right.
And it's a sepia photograph. He's got these waxed mustache.
No way. Did you name the journalist at Le Figaro Martine after her?
No, I just like the name Martine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I knew someone else that was
Yeah.
Martine.
See, now you know I'm reading.
Yeah.
Now you know that I'm not just making it up.
Right. And the Martine from Duluth has run it for 50 years.
Does she speak English?
No.
Because I'd love to have a detective on this show one day.
Yeah.
You know, I did an episode once, I don't know, about a year ago, where I tried to find someone who'd been very kind to me 10 years ago. And I called a detective, and he charged so much money. I mean, it was like 500 euros for half an hour or something like that.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah.
Aimee wouldn't charge that.
No.
But she does computer security now, so you'd have to be a good friend before she helped
I think I'd be friends with Aimee. She seems to befriend everybody, don't you think?
Yeah.
It's quite cool talking to the author of the book that I'm reading. I've had a lot of authors on this show, but never one who's written a crime book that I'm in the process of reading. And it's kind of tripping me out a little bit, Cara.
Oh, well, don't worry about it, Oliver. I only kill people on the page. Okay. You have to understand that.
Well, funny that you say that, because the title of this very episode, I thought it'd be kind of fun, was How to Get Away with a Murder in Paris. Do you think that's a good idea that we talk about that, or are we?
Of course, but it's getting very, very hard. Because I often go out with my friends and we do a little reconnaissance of the arrondissement. And I'm saying, where could I put a body? Because it's so densely populated here, and how long 5 hours to discovery, or you don't want especially if they're outside, and what's the weather. And so my friends will often go with me, and I'll say, okay, could you lie down here? And could we see if the bush?
Oh, well, let's do that in the video later. I'll be a corpse.
Okay.
You have to hold the camera, and I'll be the corpse.
Perfect. Because you have to kind of see the light, what time it is, where the shrubs are, where's the nearest metro, what are you trying to get away with? And no spoilers here, but the next book, we have a murder in a cemetery.
Ooh.
Personal best. I've been trying to do that for many books.
Why is it? What do you mean personal best? Is it hard to do? Is that difficult to do? Why?
Yeah, because it's, the cemetery was not focal to the story. In the plot, everything serves the plot. Everything that happens furthers the story and the pacing. And sure, Aimee has gone to cemeteries, but it wasn't pivotal to the plot. But this happens right away, so it's no spoilers, and we know, and that is part of the story. Why in the cemetery? But I can't tell you. I'd have to kill you, Oliver.
But so today. By the way, when I say that Aimee, oh my God, I'm going to call you Aimee. I've just accepted it. I reckon there's probably a lot of you in Aimee as well.
Yes, but she does a lot of things, and I'm just looking out your window here, your skylight, to the skylights on the roof, and what do you call the zinc rooftops, the slanted rooftops, and she would climb that in heels.
You wouldn't?
I would do it without heels. And I have done it. Most of the things in my books I road tested.
Really?
Yeah. On heels, no stilettos.
What I love about your books, Cara, and not Aimee, Cara, is I love. I love a lot about them, but one thing I particularly love is you're very good at descriptions, not just of everything, the scenes and murder and everything, but also you can set it so well that I feel that and I don't know how you do it, and I want to know, because I dabble in writing a little bit. Yeah. I've got a blog, theeviltower.com.
Yes.
But even just that you look at a window. When I try and describe things, I go, it was a beautiful rooftop, and I consider that a pretty average description. Is there a secret that for me and for other budding writers out there for how to set a scene so well like you do?
Well, thank you. What I learned when I was starting to write was to capture some really significant detail. You don't have to paint everything. Like I'm just looking out Oliver's window here and constantly describing it.
I feel like there's a crime going on over my shoulder when you keep doing that.
But I'm thinking, what would be really important that helps a reader visualize what's going on, and also putting in sensory detail, which I think will pull your reader right there. Like if you're crawling up this, what do you call the zinc roof?
Yeah, well, it's like zinc sheeting on those roofs, I suppose.
Yeah, and then the little skylights in them, they're the typical Parisian with the slanted. What would it be like? What if you were climbing? Would your fingernails scrape on it? Would you, would there be pigeons flying around? Would you, so how does it feel, taste, smell? And a lot of things I really work on the tactile sense, because we do the vision and all the other sensory details, but touching is really important, especially in Paris where you have these old stones that are pockmarked.
Yeah.
How things feel. So, the smells, the butter, the cigarettes, the diesel which will be phased out soon, right?
Yeah,
from
true.
the cars. So it's kind of painting a picture using, if you're standing on that street or we're standing here and you've opened the window back up, what does it smell like? Where's the light? Just things like that. I learned that a long time ago.
Right.
Because I want to bring the reader to Paris.
Right. And that's one other thing that I think a lot of people are loving in the book club about your book is because anyone who loves Paris, it's like a different feel of Paris because so many books, podcasts, videos, whatever,
movies,
everything is about Paris for better or worse, a lot of cliches. But it's not often that we're reading the grisly details of a murder on a very specific street. You know what I mean? So I love it. I'm in your world.
Cool.
And
it's a little gritty, I want it to be gritty, but not, and I have friends who are police and, when I talk to me, they tell me how it is, and murder anywhere in the world is gritty or, sad.
Do you think, I feel like sometimes some authors maybe give too many descriptions, and I know other people find that can be a bit off-putting, like they say the smell and the feel and the look. And by the end of it, you're like, all right, what's going on,
Right.
How do you know to cut it, is it just a feeling that you have?
Well, I think when you start a new chapter or you start a scene, you want to set it at, what is it like if I'm standing here or riding up on the scooter? What is it like? You set what it's like, the kinds of people that are there. And then I think but I go through after I write a draft and I write many drafts and I try to make sure I look for at least one sensory detail in each page.
Quite tangible, yeah.
Yeah. And then not necessarily two, but I think more than two I don't think is necessary.
Yeah.
It's just about bringing your reader there. You don't want too much, but so like you're standing on the corner and Aimee's in her stilettos and a bus is passing by and there's a bakery or something and then move on. It's not heavy-handed, I guess.
When I said before about, I don't know if I said it before, that we're going to do a video after this, the idea is that you're going to show me places from the book.
Yes.
And point out, because what I like is you haven't even... A lot of people who said books places, they go for the total, Eiffel Tower all the time. The cliches, right? Whereas in Murder in the Marais, you're in, that square Georges Quin.
Oh, yeah.
No one knows about that. I had a tour guide on this show once, and he said it was the biggest secret of the Marais. And, it's kind of... It features in your book.
I stumbled in there once, I don't know, years ago. It wasn't on purpose. And that's the best thing for me to get lost in Paris or make the wrong turn.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is gorgeous.
Right.
It's so quiet in there and where people go and have lunch.
Yeah.
And I can understand they don't want to talk about it. They want to keep it like a place at lunch.
For
you can just go read or eat your lunch.
Yeah. And so is that was leading to, is that when you're researching? So if you've done 19 books, what's the arrondissement you haven't done?
Well, actually, I did 2 in the 4th, which Meredith Mullins, that photographer.
I met her before. She's lovely.
Yeah, so Meredith said, you've done 2 in the 4th. And I went, you are so right.
Oh, Meredith.
But so now I have to do 21 books. So I'm working on the 15th arrondissement, which is my next book. Hopefully.
There's a lot of history there.
Yeah.
That's where the Vel d'Hiver...
Velodrome, where they were rounded up.
Because, you mentioned that in Murder in the Marais, and I'd seen, I obviously knew it existed and everything before, and I think, so the Australian ambassador's residence is there, almost on the site of it. And when I read it in your book just the other day, I looked it up to see exactly where it was, and it's not exactly the same, but it's less than a stone's throw away.
Wow.
But the 15th is a weird arrondissement, but there's a lot of kind of...
Huge. It's a huge arrondissement.
Yeah.
And there was the old abattoir, where they killed the horses and animals, and Le Petit Ceinture, the little ring road. I think you went on there recently
I've been all over.
Yeah.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. You know what? I'll put in a good word with you with the ambassador and see if you can get up there, because that is one of the best views of Paris.
Oh, please do.
Although, I don't know if the building was there in the early 90s, which is when you'd need to...
Yeah, 99. There is a woman, 52 Martinis.
Yep, Forrest Collins.
She lives in the 15th, so I went to lunch with her in the 15th, and she told me her little, as you do when you live there. And she's also made a signature cocktail for Aimee's 20th book birthday. It's called the Champagne Stiletto.
I love it. Forrest Collins, she's probably listening. She's got a podcast of her own. We'll give her a shout out. 52 Martinis. Go and check out everything she does.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about this cocktail.
Well, it was in honor of Aimee Leduc, and so I've had coasters made.
No way.
Yes, so cool with the recipe. And I'm going to put it on my website because how she did it was so funny. How to her, Aimee is part of leather, the leather jacket and the stilettos. And, so she wanted to make can we use words here like kick-ass?
Only if we say 10 seconds before that you're... No, kick-ass is all right. No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she said, so Aimee has that. So it's great. And I'm going to post that. I don't know where. I didn't bring it with me, but... It's really fun.
Tell me how it feels to have had a character for 20 years, right? Is that right? It's just to be working with one character so long. And more specifically, what irritates you about that?
Nothing.
Really?
Nothing. No, because it's only 5 or 6 years in her life. Now she has a baby. I have to say that. But so she's kind of grown, and I never thought about this when I didn't know I would be published. But when I finished all the arrondissements, I'm thinking there's going to be an arc in her character. She's going to have gone somewhere from Marais when we meet her to where she'll be in the last book. I mean, of course, she can always go to Crime in Marseille or something, but I'm thinking there's going to be an arc to her personal, and her emotional growth and her family and where she sees herself as a woman and all that in the last book. But I love her because I'm closer to her. I mean, I've known her longer than many, many friends. It's more than 20 years, Oliver. It's because... like 25 years. So she and I go window shopping.
But
and shoe shopping, of course. I never buy, but she'll show me what I should buy.
You have to be careful, Cara, because it could turn into like a Beautiful Mind kind of thing. And maybe you'll find that one of you doesn't exist. Oops, spoiler alert for Beautiful Mind. But surely, I mean, I've never had a friend for 20 years. I've had brothers for 20 years, and they get on my nerves sometimes.
Oh, well, she does get on my nerves because she's tactless. As Renee, her partner, always points out, you leave a lot to be desired in the tactful department because she bowls right in and she's, So, yes, she can be annoying, and she can be, she'll see it one way and she doesn't see other people's point of view, and she's got problem with men. She likes bad boys. So she does make dumb mistakes, but that's her. And I think that's important that she does, as I do, as maybe many of us do.
Hell, I do.
Yeah.
People, she has made some questionable choices in the first book. But hey, I'm not going to give anything away either. Let's take a little step away from Aimee and your books, because this show's also about Paris. And for all we know, there's someone listening who doesn't like books or crime books, but does like Paris. And they've listened for 20 minutes already, and they're probably just hoping for a little bit of Paris.
Yeah.
I'm interested. It's a pretty broad question, but why do you like Paris so much?
I went to a French Catholic school when I was young, and we had nuns that taught us archaic French, which I discovered when I came to Paris. No one spoke the word, how I did. And I just had grown up in a very Francophile family, which is odd because we have no French descendants or anything. But when I came to Paris, there was something here that just pulled me. It pulls many, many people. And I felt there were so many things to discover, so many secrets in history. And I met the author Romain Gary.
This rings a bell. I reckon we talked about this last time.
Yeah.
And what happened?
And I felt there was so much, and I was very young, and I was just like, I'll do that later. And I knew there was some story, there was something here I wanted to explore more. And I had the world to see. I went to India and, Morocco, and I was traveling, in that stage. And when I came back to Paris, it was like, yes, it felt very familiar to me. I feel when I'm here, I'm an outsider, but I'm also, familiar. I don't know how to say it. But I think being an outsider is good if you're a writer because you notice things, right? And, what's different. And, when you talked about those things on the doors, about the boot scrapers.
Yep.
I was like, I've always thought about that, and now Oliver brings it out, and I'm really into that and what that would mean. And anyway, there's a lot of things that I wanted to explore, and the stories of the time that, a country was occupied.
Right. Oh,
Because I met all these people and their parents were young children during the occupation.
such a fascinating and horrific time in the history of Paris. So fascinating. If someone should make a history podcast about Paris, because I would listen to that.
Yeah.
It's not for me to do, I don't think. It's for someone to do, and I'd love to hear it. But I was thinking in that, and thanks by the way for following along my show and noticing my obsession with doors and all that kind of stuff.
I love that one. Yeah, I was like, I've got to follow and make sure I understand that.
What I wanted to ask though, in your research, this is very specific, but it's from the book. You know how they carved swastikas into people's heads?
Mm-hmm.
Are there photos of that? Can you see people with those videos and stuff?
I don't know if they're videos, but I've seen photos of women who were yes, with tar, actually. It's not everywhere, and every place is different because there was the épuration. There was the, after the war, people went and just, went to people they thought were collaborators or got, food from the Germans or women who, whatever, and it was sort of venting their spleen because they just, went after the, in women's case, maybe the easiest targets. Sure, maybe they collaborated, but maybe they had no food. I mean, I won't judge anyone, but yes, there are pictures of this. There's, whatever. They've shaved their heads and,
You know what seemed weird, like reading your book? I mean, I've read a lot of this history stuff before, but it's kind of right in my mind now, is that, I can't even begin to fathom what it was like. But it feels weird that after the war that everyone was attacking themselves, and each other and killing each other still.
Well, it's a dark time,
Wow,
and it's a lot of people who made a lot of money during the occupation kept their wealth. A lot of is it Zola or Balzac? I get it wrong. Said look behind any grand wealthy family and you find a crime. So some people.
That sounds like a Zola to me.
Okay, well, probably right. I'm sure wrong. Someone knows much better.
Email Cara, not me. What we didn't talk about at all, and time's run away from us, so we have to tackle it before we get on the scooter and go and do a Patreon video. Is how to commit a murder in Paris and get away with it. We only briefly touched on it. So let me put you in the situation. You can tell me. And this is all hypothetical, everybody.
Yes.
Okay, so for some reason, Cara, you have to kill somebody. And yet you have to get rid of their body. Hypothetically. Today. How are you going to do it?
Well, if I was going to hypothetically murder you,
there's
issues because Oliver here, a tall guy, and we're up here on the 7th floor.
Right.
So that's great. I mean, what would I do? Would I carve you up? And what would I do with the bloodstains? Would I use that suitcase to put you in? I'd need a couple because you're a tall man to chop you up. And
why are you cutting me up all of a sudden?
Hypothetically, I'm just saying. If you died here and I had to get rid of you, what would I do? Would I leave you in here because we have odor and stuff like that? Would I chop you into pieces or make several trips? Would I have a car that I could, or a scooter I could pull into your courtyard and put the bags in or the suitcases? It's quite involved. And because do I want to leave? What about my DNA and the blood spatter and any of your, is your wife Lena going to be looking for you tomorrow and your note come home?
Probably not.
So I'm sorry to get a little gruesome here, but
I
could pretend, we use a rafter and that you hung yourself. You committed suicide, but it was actually I got you up there. I don't know how. I'd have to give you some drug because you're a big guy. But
you know what the worst would be is that we've just recorded you saying all this, so you're immediately the prime suspect.
Yes, that was not very smart. No. But I'm not going to kill you, Oliver.
I like the way your mind works, though. Okay, what we need to talk about to finish up is the new book is Murder in Bel Air. Mm-hmm. Now, I know there's going to be a murder in a cemetery.
Very soon, yes.
That's not a popular one, as I understand.
No, it's a very small private cemetery. It's lovely. Cimetière Picpus. Near Nation. It's where people don't. There's a huge history, but there were more people guillotined at Place de la Nation, the old Place du Trône, than anywhere else in Paris. And they would take the carts and they'd put the bodies in there and take them to this old convent grounds when they kicked the sisters out and put them in a big pit. And there is this incredible. You go to the church, and they have the names of the people,
Right.
what they did, like a woman who was a laundress, or a priest or whatever. And then after the terror, quietly, I don't know, some aristocrats found out that many of their family were in there, so they got some kind of dispensation, I don't know, and they took out the royals, their family members, and they buried them right next door, and they built this little tiny private cemetery. So. And now, if you are a royal, if you're a noble, you can be buried there as well. If you're in the family, they own that privately.
Wow.
And the Marquise de Lafayette is buried there. And there's an American flag on the grave, and because he helped America in the Revolution.
Sure.
And the Germans left the American flag on Lafayette's grave during the war because they respected him for whatever reason.
Interesting.
So it's this very small private cemetery in the back of this convent grounds.
Could I get in there tomorrow?
Sure.
Yeah. Because so it's not really a tourist attraction
People don't know about it.
No.
And it is closed some very odd days, so you need to check first. It's not open all the time.
Right.
But I thought, what a perfect place to put a body.
Yeah. That's what you're always thinking about, isn't it, Cara?
Yeah, and the beautiful fig trees there, and
Yeah.
it's very peaceful.
I'm just switching off and letting you carry me away to another part of Paris. Okay, so that book is coming out June 4th, which is very soon. And people should visit your website and your social media, because as we speak, you're doing a competition for people who pre-order the book, and they can win a scarf.
That I picked out for them in Galerie Lafayette.
Ooh la la, all the Lafayettes. And we're on Rue Lafayette right now.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Wow.
4 scarves, so you can enter every Friday.
There you go, guys. If you want a scarf, go and check out the new book by Cara Black. CaraBlack.com is the website.
Et voila.
You guys know how to do it. It'll all be in the show notes below. Also, if you're not a supporting member of this show, you're about to miss out on, well, you've already missed it out because we're going to do this in the past, essentially. But just to give you an idea, we're going to take the scooter now down to the Marais, and we're just going to walk. I'm quite looking forward to it. And you're going to say, hey, that's where this happened. That's where this happened. And I'm going to say, hey, Cara, this is a good place for a picnic. Do you know about this? And we're just going to have some fun. So consider checking that out too. And lastly, on Friday, so 4 days after this episode comes out, it'll be me and Cara meeting with a few people in Paris, getting right into the nitty-gritty of murder in the Marais. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
I can't wait. All right, let's hit the scooter then.
Okay.
And thank you for being in the studio.
Thank you, Oliver.
All right, there you have it, Cara Black. I hope you guys get out and read the book. You could probably hear it in my voice during that episode. I'm a big fan. I loved reading Murder in the Marais, and I've almost finished it. If you watched the video that we talked about, that we went and did, she gave away a few plot spoilers. So if you're halfway through it, hesitate before watching the full video. But, it's not the end of the world. But just know which character gets shot towards the end. Anyway, before I get into the French Today stuff, I want to do a little bit of Gmail. Gmail, last name is G, remember? G-E-E, Gmail. Yeah, not sure if that really works, but I'm just going to do one quick one today because we've got a bonus episode coming up on Thursday, and I'll do a bit more then. But this one was pretty fun. So, kind of fun, but also a little bit sad, to be honest. So, first a flashback. In the Louvre, must have been maybe 2 months ago, there was a big exhibition where the artist J.R. Plastered it with paper. And when you stood at a certain angle, it looked like that pyramid at the Louvre was coming up from the depths of hell. It was pretty fantastic. It was a real draw card. A lot of people went to it. I went there a little bit late and noticed that, I don't know if it was the weather or the Parisians or the tourists or what, but it had been sort of ripped up to smithereens. And I was, smithereens, there's a word you don't hear so often. And I said, I looked up JR on Instagram, and I was like, oh God, I wonder what he thinks. He must be devastated to see that everyone has sort of ripped it up. And he was watching it from a window up somewhere behind me, and he was commenting sort of live saying how much he liked it, that people were ripping it up because it was something about the ephemeral art, and that's why he does it in paper. He was quite happy about it, and he was taking pictures. So I thought, you know what? I was there with my wife, Lena. I said, let's take a little bit home as a memento. So we did, and Lena did this really cool little thing that she framed that we got on the wall, just some sort of bits of this sort of black and white paper, just scraps of it. Anyway, we had a little bit left over, and I did because I'd done a live video for the Patreon supporters down there at the Pyramid. I said, hey, if anyone, I can't even remember what I said because this is like, it must be 2 months ago now, but I said, hey, if anyone wants this little piece, you've just got to, I don't know, write a comment. That's what I said. Write a comment about what video you'd like me to do in the future, and I'll randomly pick one, and I'll send you this scrap of history in one of the Eiffel Tower tote bags. And someone won it, and I sent it off to them. And this is like a month later, recently, she sent me an email. Linda, her name is, and she said, Oliver, just got back from an extended hospital stay. I'm sorry to hear that, Linda. Hope you're feeling better. And she says, and the lunch pack of Notre Dame tote bag and the JR tear of paper were there to welcome me home. Great stuff from my favorite Paris talk show host and, of course, lovely Lena. And this is my favorite bit of the whole email. The last time I won anything was a shower head. So this was quite classy. Well, Linda, I'm very curious what kind of competition is giving a shower head as a prize. I hope it was a really good one. Secondly, you're welcome. I'm hoping that goes to a good place. Maybe it could go on your wall as well. But they're the kind of things that happen behind the Patreon paywall. A little bit of fun. Now, I want to talk about French Today. I've written down a couple of things. Firstly, I want to point out FrenchToday.com/earful5 if you're listening this month, earful6 if you're listening next month. That'll give you an additional 10% off whatever audiobooks you buy. Imagine that. So if you get one of the big packages, that's going to save you, gosh, I don't even know. Go and have a look. FrenchToday.com/earful5. Also, keep an ear out for Thursday. I've already recorded an episode with Camille. We were chatting about, it was kind of interesting. We were talking about hacks, you know, like secrets, tips to learning beginner French quicker. So she has a lot to say on this subject, kind of the idea that French teachers at school or university or whatever, often they'll focus on things that aren't necessarily so relevant. And she was giving her tips. Of course, one of her tips is buy her audiobooks, but it's a lot deeper than that. She was talking about the kind of things that you can get away with skipping over, or the kind of things that are more necessary than others. Anyway, that's a full episode coming out on Thursday. But as usual, I want to give you a quick little glimpse into my learning life before we finish up here. I've written down phrases from audiobook 6 is what I'm up to. So number 6 is about 3/4 of the way through. If you're a beginner student of French, you can start at the very first level. You can even start at, grammar exercises, whatever. Start at level 1 if you're new. I'm at level 6, and in one of the study guides, there were a few expressions that the French use all the time, and I noted them down because I think they're cool. And if you want to improve your French, even if you're a beginner, they're good. They're very good. So one of them. Firstly, one of them is kind of when you've been here for a while, it's one of the phrases, little sort of filler phrases that you hear so much, you're just like, what the heck are they talking about, these guys? The way it's spelt, so you can imagine it, D-U-C-O-U-P, and it kind of sounds like this. They go, du coup, du coup, and they just say it all the time, and it kind of means like as a result, but we don't say it like that in English. It's kind of the way we say like in English, you know? It was like, just all the time. It was like this, and he said like, and it was like, so they say du coup. Me personally, I've never said it. Never said it after almost 5 years in this country. I speak French fairly well, never said it. So it's one of those things that maybe you'll hear a lot, especially if you watch French movies, they say it all the time. So good to know what it means. Another little of these filler expressions, also noted in the 6th book here. When someone orders a coffee or whatever and you say the same, and often people say le même s'il vous plaît, you can also say pareil, which means the same. It kind of sounds, it's like parallel, pareil. And people say that a lot too. You might say, where do you come from? And someone will say, Brittany. And then you'll say to another person, where do you come from? And they'll say Paris. And when you first hear it, you go, what are they talking about? It almost sounds like they're saying Paris. No, they're saying Paris. So there's another good one for you. One more that I noticed that I don't think I even heard it before, but it's good to know. It means let's say, and it's pronounced disons, and it's spelled D-I-S-O-N-S. Let's say, disons. So there you go. There's 3 little filler phrases that you could slip into your conversation to impress your French friends, or just, if you're like me, to remember so that you can translate it in your head next time you hear someone speaking French. So there you go. Keep an ear out on Thursday for Camille from French Today on the Eiffel Tower. Don't forget to go and buy their audiobooks, FrenchToday.com/earful5. And lastly, let me leave you on this note. If you've listened this far, it's imperative right now that you hit the subscribe button. If you've already hit the subscribe button on this podcast, I give you a challenge for the week. And email me in this I want to hear. Either convince one of your friends or your brothers or your mum or your son or whatever to hit that subscribe button, or do it stealthily. Take their phone. Maybe if they listen to podcasts, if they don't listen to podcasts, maybe don't do it. But do it. When you're sitting there at a cafe talking about Paris with your friend, say, get out your phone. Get out your phone, Mary. Subscribe. The Earful Tower. And you'll hear a lot of fun stuff. Similarly, we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up in the near weeks. Like I said, Thursday with Camille. I think next week, if not next week, the next one, Janet Hulstrand, another author who's written a book about demystifying the French. I had her in the studio already. That was an interesting episode, interesting book, and I think you guys will learn something from it. And I've got my targets set on the auctioneer from that big auction house that I did a video at recently. We've been missing each other a lot. We're going to do an episode talking about antiques in Paris. And for the meantime, I'm going to get ready and go and do a walk show with Caroline de Marais in the 9th arrondissement. Maybe I'll see you then. Thanks for listening. I'm Oliver G. You're listening to the Eiffel Tower. Talk to you on Thursday.